Greetings, traveler. I am Sir Nox, the teller of tales. Would you like to hear one? Before we get started, please consider subscribing to the channel, as it helps immensely. Thank you so much. This one is called The Forgotten Paladin. This tale is of the first D&D campaign, which almost made me give up D&D entirely. I would like to say all players were first-time players, as I had known about D&D for a couple of years but had yet to play or delve into the rules. I saw this as a golden opportunity to learn the hobby. Party makeup. The party makeup was as followed: a half-orc bear totem warrior barbarian, a half-elf pact of the tome fiend warlock, a blue dragonborn tempest cleric, who wielded a great sword, a wood elf assassin rogue. I was playing a half-elf vengeance paladin who used a shield and a short sword, as the light property confused me at the time, so I thought I could only use a shield with a light weapon. Brand new beginnings. The game had a strong start at level 3. A typical tavern starts with a talking three-legged black cat called Salem acting as our first quest giver, only to be interrupted by an orc raid on the city. From there it was typical D&D. Combat seemed decently balanced. The DM had a good mixture of comedy and more serious moments. Not to mention, he did a fantastic job at visual descriptions. What I am trying to highlight is, by all accounts, the DM put the effort into his sessions, and he had some aspects which made him a great DM. It's just what happened at level 5 where the game took a turning point for the worst. A turn for the worst. At level 5, we ended up facing an incredibly difficult fight against a high-level sword bard, who at one point cast a strange spell which created a tiny, glistening, floating bead that hovered in the air. My paladin, unsure of what it was, declared, "Everyone move away, I will protect you." As my character disengaged and attempted to body block the bead with my shield, the rest of the party spent that turn repositioning to the other side of the room. The barbarian throwing javelins, the warlock casting firebolts, the rogue shooting arrows, and the cleric casting a guiding bolt. And as the other players unleashed a flurry of attacks, just before my turn started, my character and I learnt what a delayed blast fireball was. In an eruption of flames and a visible shockwave, my paladins spectacularly failed their saving throw. The barbarian, just scraping the edge of the AoE, passed due to their danger sense. Thanks to his resistance and success on the save, the barbarian was badly hurt but pulled through. I, on the other hand, fared significantly less well, taking 62 fire damage to the face, instantly knocking my paladin unconscious, that being 22 points short of instantly killing me. At the time, with how the DM described it, I thought it was fair only to be knocked unconscious considering I was at the epicenter of an explosion. The exact description has left my mind, but I remember he used most senses in its description, combined with mimicking various explosion sounds. It was truly a monolithic moment, the party now realizing the threat of the encounter, followed by the cleric complaining she had to heal the stupid paladin again, which the others and the DM seemed to laugh about. At which point the DM said, "Well, he's not dead yet, so you don't have to heal him immediately." The cleric opted to charge forward, swinging her greatsword forward in a thunderous fury. The fight ended up being a slog. I remember rolling 5 death saves, 3 successes and 2 failures, only able to watch on as the rest of the party fought the bard. The barbarian, in single digits HP, with our vexing foe raising his longsword over my character's head. Only then did the cleric say, "Well, I guess I could heal the paladin now, so I will cast Healing Word on him," granting me 4 hit points back, which then immediately led to my turn. I decided to use 20 points of Lay on Hands to heal the barbarian, as I saw him benefiting the most due to him resisting all damage. The bard then landed a crit on me, knocking my character unconscious again, which I felt was fair considering I had just healed the barbarian. So the fight goes on for 3 more rounds, where after reducing the bard to 0 hit points, he seemed to enter a second phase, flames erupting from his swirling like a fiery robe, and our party's attacks didn't seem to hurt him, at which point, to his credit, the DM did something pretty cool. On my turn, as I was about to roll another death save, the DM said I regained consciousness, and the first thing I saw above me was the bard's undershirt, as he was standing on top of me. Being directly below him, I was the only one who could see under his shirt. Embedded in his belly was an amber gemstone that radiated power. The DM asked me what I wanted to do. I asked if I could attempt to rip it out. DM said sure, and went on to an epic description of how the seemingly dead paladin suddenly erupted, sending his metal gauntlet into Bard's abdomen and ripping out an amber gemstone. The Bard screamed in pain like a final dirge as he screamed, "No! It can't be now!" As all the flames halted from his corpse hitting the floor. At the same time, the DM described how my character fell back unconscious, only for the cleric to cast Spare the Dying on me. The start of the BS. After my character awoke, I was brought up to speed and the party completed a long rest, at which point the DM said, "Paladin, as you awake, you feel your warm comfort of faith diminished, and no longer feel the fresh comfort of divinity each morning brings. You do not recover any spell slots, uses of lay on hands, and uses of your channel divinity." Me? Okay. Do I know why? No. At the time, I thought it might be an effect of being knocked out back to back, as this was a rough encounter. Again, I was new and didn't fully understand the rules. The adverting day goes on, and it was alright for the rest of the party, but rough for me as I was conservative with my spell slots. As the day ends, we no longer rest. The DM tells me I feel no different. I still recover hit points and hit dice, but nothing related to my class. At this point, I'm a little concerned, as all I have is 2 first-level spell slots and 5 lay-on-hands points. So I talk to my party, and the cleric player suggests I go to church. Now, this was the first and only time the DM had messed with any of the players' characters by taking stuff away from them. I can say that for the rest of the time I played, I was the only one who had stuff taken away from them. After the session, I asked the DM the following. What's going on with my character? It feels a little bit targeted. Oh, a little bit. But trust me, it's for the story. It's for story reasons, yeah? I'm letting the others shine now, but you're gonna have a bigger part on the story later. Okay, well, what happens with my character now? Find out next session. Yeah, there'll be a town for the church to your god. The nonsensical BS. Next session, we skip over some travel time and eventually arrive at a city where I let the party know my intention to seek a cleric of my faith. The blue dragonborn cleric says she will watch the paladin while the rest of the party explores the town. It was during this time those players got items from Salem, the 3-legged cat. The church was a grim place, a gothic atmosphere run by an elderly man with a gaunt face, aged by the tax of time. After explaining the situation to him, he offers to perform a ceremony to contact our shared god. The DM went all out for this description, from describing swirling smoke to rolling his eyes back in person as he acted it out. At the apex of the ritual, the priest said, "After you fell in battle, your god's name believed you to have died as you were so close to death. As such, he no longer is giving you divine power." So how can I get God's name to see me again? Can you contact him? "That is out of my power, child. Instead, you should bolster your faith and perform acts of heroism. Keep to the tenets of your oath and uphold your faith, and it is certainly that God's name will restore his divine gifts." Not wanting to cause a scene, I went with it, as I imagined the DM was using this as a test of faith moment of a story, despite finding this nonsensical, as I was a vengeance paladin of Kelemvor, Lord of the Dead and Judge of the Damned and Master of this crystal spire, he who judges all in the city of the dead. So in other words, the god of death believes one of his devoted to be dead. When that paladin fails to manifest in the afterlife for judgment, instead of seeking me out or confirming if I am dead, Kelemvor takes away my paladin powers. Yes, because that totally makes sense. After reuniting, we leave the city and go adventuring for a bit, where I decide to not expend any spell slots. This was painful. Then after a couple of sessions, DM declares a level up. Everyone is hyped at the table, looking at what they get, ecstatic at what they can now do. I then turn to the DM and ask, I normally would get Aura of Protection, which does, I describe it, what happens since I'm missing spell slots. Increase your hit point maximum, gain a hit dice, and increase your total spell slot limit if that increases. However, you won't recover any spell slots or gain these, and you don't get your Aura of Protection yet. What about laying on hands? It's 5 times level? That maximum increases, but you don't recover any. This left me in a foul mood, but I left it as that, as I didn't want to bring the rest of the players' mood down, since they were excited about their new class features, the Forgotten Paladin. So adventure goes on, sessions pass by, and we reach at a level up. At this point, I ask if I could multi-class into a cleric as a representation of my character trying to strengthen their faith in Kellam Vor. Plus, getting some spell slots back would be nice. The DM says that great, but once I chose to do so, I can't undo it. So I agreed. After I agreed to multi-class, it was at this point the DM was kind enough to inform me that I would not be gaining any recoverable resources from the cleric. That's kind of a wiener move, you know. It's how your character's operating. Plus, you have cantrips now. You wouldn't have gained anything from Paladin anyway. That's only because you took it away from my character. Stop being so ungrateful. I already told you I was doing it for story reasons. Stop complaining, Paladin. Your class has more features and hit points than me, and you have better armor. I can't wear armor either. Plus, you get a fighting style. I don't get that. Okay, sorry guys. Don't look so glum. You're basically a fighter now. The adventure continues, where we learn that Salem was a Rakshasa, and we learn of the BBG, who is an ancient vampire, attempting to gather 7 gems which seal his true power. One of them being the amber gemstone I ripped out of the bard. Salem gives us a shortcut through a layer of hell where we find ourselves on a giant glacier with no way down but to climb. The barbarian uses his athletics to climb down with ease. The rogue uses her acrobatics to vault and twist down, grabbing onto small parts with greater dexterity. The warlock polymorphs the cleric into a bird to fly down, then to herself and changes back once she is at the bottom. The DM then has an evil grin and says, Paladin, you're in heavy armor. This will be a much more difficult climb down, and you will have disadvantage. If you fall, I'll catch you. Could I stick my short sword in the ice and rappel down the ice like a pirate does on a ship sail, since my armor is so heavy? The ice is too solid for that. Okay, I cast Searing Smite with my short sword. You're not recovering spell slots right now. Yes, I had 2 first-level slots since fighting the bard, which I never expended. Not falling to my death seems like a good use. How could a smite help you? Flames cover a weapon you can touch until you hit with an attack. Since I am not attacking the ice, my sword remains covered in the flames. Therefore, it should help melt the ice. DM now stunned. Huh? That's creative. Sure, I'll allow it. With the party safely down, we begin our march across a frozen lake. Midway through, the DM asks for everyone to make a saving throw, which the barbarian fails. He vanishes and we begin to hear a thudding below us. As we look down, we see him fully entrapped in ice. Barbarian is not strong enough to break free, while the rest of the party is failing to destroy the ice. Warlock is making the most progress with firebolt, but it is not enough as the barbarian is running out of time. With a heavy heart, I cast Searing Smite, brandishing my short sword in flames like a warm knife through butter. I cleave enough away to free the barbarian. With that, I am now out of spell slots. Well, that seemed a bit targeted, wasn't it? It's like the DM just picked on you for that. Oh my goodness, this sounds like a nightmare. Magical mishandouts. My suffering continues as we start to unravel more of the story. Fights are painful as DM starts throwing enemies that are resistant to non-magical damage. We begin a more rapid leveling. Once every 2 or 3 sessions. Around level 9, the DM starts throwing undead at us, which are immune to non-magical damage, where I start casting Toll the Dead, only to learn they are resistant to necrotic damage, and a few are immune. At least I now know how fun it is to spend entire fights only using the help action. We keep leveling and eventually reach level 12. Man, you've really put in the time into this and put up with a lot. Now, I've largely left it out, but every other session I tended to ask the DM if I'm still wanted in the campaign. Apparently, yes. Do you want me to change characters, as it really sucks right now? I feel like a pleb next to walking demigods. We will get into it soon. It will be so good for the story. I have so much planned, and you will ruin it if you leave. Just stop being so spoiled and bear with it. Spoiled? 12 levels? Seems a bit like that's a long time. Other players seem to be on the DM's side, and whenever I talked to them about leaving, would go on about how they wanted me to stay at the table. Boy, was I an idiot, who fell for it hook, line, and sinker. By this point, the other players had a whole host of magic items, which were as followed. Barbarian, plus 2 Great Axe, bracers of defense, a necklace which gave them an additional 3rd level totem pick, a javelin of lighting giving to him personally by Salem, a ring of psychic resistance, and a bag of holding. Warlock, rod of the Pact Keeper, a pearl of power. A grimoire which gave them 6 extra spells as well as additional spell slots. 2 first and 2 second. A ring of mind shielding given to her personally by Salem, and a cloak which gave her 2 extra warlock invocations. Armor of shadows as well as 1 other. Cleric, plus 1 greatsword, which dealt an extra 1d6 lightning damage, plus 2 blue dragon scale mail, a gauntlet which made thunderous smite plus thunderwave a cleric spell, prepared for free. A necklace which gave her an extra use of her channel divinity, and a crown embedded with a blue dragon horn, which let her treat any roll of 1 as 2s for lightning damage. Rogue, a cloak of elven kind, a ring of free action given to her personally by Salem, gloves of thievery, a dagger of venom given to her personally by an NPC related to her backstory, and a plus 2 to longbow which lets her attack twice. In addition, the bow also allowed her to split her sneak attack damage between 2 enemies in any way she liked. She had to declare she was doing so before making any attack rolls. Paladin, me, a set of plate armor, which allowed me to use my reaction to throw myself in front of an ally within 5 feet of me when they were attacked, providing I was wielding a shield. When doing so, I would use the target's AC instead of my own, as well as, nope, that was it. Oh my goodness, you were definitely being picked on. Now, this was made slightly worse by the fact that the fighting style I picked was the protection fighting style. For those who don't know, it does the following. When a creature you can see attacks a target other than you, that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll. You must be wielding a shield, meaning this kind of invalidated my fighting style. A few sessions after, using both outside of the game, I had the following conversation. I appreciate the magic armor which my character got, but its feature kind of invalidated my fighting style as I can't use both. Could I switch my fighting styles? I don't mind if my character has to do extra training, or maybe my character has to seek a teacher or something. No. You picked what you picked, and you might not always want to use your armor's properties. Plus, the warlock doesn't get to change their pact. The sword which broke the paladin's back, the adventure continues, and it's been horrific for me, only being able to cast Toll the Dead, which the enemies are resistant to hurts. At this time, I failed to find another D&D. I was isolated at university, and life generally wasn't that great. I kept telling myself that this D&D is getting me to socialize and out of the flat. We ended up facing an undead knight, which the DM described as wielding a magic longsword. After defeating said knight, I asked if I can recover the sword, and DM says yes. When we long rest, the DM informs me that I feel a spark of divinity as I recover a first-level spell slot. The rest of the players are hyping it up and happy, but I'm just feeling hollow. I'm standing next to people who can literally summon 100 feet of 20 feet high blades from thin air, blade barrier, and here I am with 2d8 radiant one day. The DM lets me learn some properties of the sword, informing me it's a +1 longsword with some dark unknown property to it, which I can identify. The next day, we are facing 2 vampire-spawned knights. Having killed one of them before, we knew its resistance, and with my new magic sword in hand, I was ready to deal some damage. The initiative is rolled I'm up first. Brandishing my new blade at hand, I barrel towards the enemy and roll an attack. Natural 20! The players are hyped and I feel the joy starting to come back. I grin and proclaim, I would like to smite. I roll damage and the DM describes how the reinvigorated divine power builds in my chest as it flows down my arm onto the blade, becoming a searing radiance. As the radiance builds up, it burns the undead, rendering its flesh to dust. At this point, you hear a cracking noise. Glancing at your blade, you can only watch as it shatters into dozens of pieces, becoming useless. Oh, screw this DM. What the At the end of a long rest, the blade will repair itself. Also, it takes an action to change your weapon, Paladin. That undead have immunity to my attacks. Without that sword, I can't deal damage to these enemies. Well, you will have to be more tactical when you decide to smite. At this point, I started packing up my stuff and said I'd had enough. That the DM can kill my character for all I care. I don't give a crap about your story anymore. I tried to work with you, but all this has done is make me feel like crap and like a dead weight. At the time, the DM attempted to rebuttal and convince me to stay. The rogue and the barbarian players tried to tell me they liked hanging out with me, but I wouldn't hear it. I ended up leaving the table, and the barbarian's player followed me to have a chat, attempting to mediate things. We talked for a while. I explained what I was going through, how this was damaging my mental health, and I just couldn't deal with 5 hours a week feeling useless as I watched you be heroes. The barbarian player offered to look after me, walk me back to my flat. I refused by stating that it was a bit late for this sentiment. Yeah, duh. You didn't speak out against the DM's BS towards my character, and you only intervened right as I'm having a breakdown. I then just walked away. Good for you. I mean, should have happened sooner, but you finally did it, so good for you. And good for you for not letting them trying to bring you back into that freaking terribly toxic environment. Not my finest moments, I will admit. I burnt a lot of bridges that day and never really spoke to most of the players again. I saw the barbarian in person once more, where I apologized to him for how we left it, and we both agreed to go our separate ways. Conclusion. No D&D is better than bad D&D. Therapy is good, and it can help you deal with your thoughts. Healing takes time, but it is worth it. You have a right to be happy and have a good time with your friends. This experience almost made me quit D&D, but someone who would become my best friend offered to DM for me. To say I was hesitant was an understatement, but the DM helped me make a changeling warlock. Hell, he helped me min-max it as he wanted me to experience playing a powerful character. That character was a blast to play, but the campaign did die. Afterwards, he offered me a spot in a different one where I rocked up a level 6 lizard folk spore druid. Well, 2 years later, that lizard folk is now level 16, with the game ongoing, and I am wrapping up my 3rd game as a DM. Well, that had a happy ending. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's crazy that you stayed that long. But yes, screw that DM and screw the players. They were all sitting around watching you suffer and be miserable while they all get to go and have awesome things given to them and play their characters and be heroes and giant demigods and... Yes, screw all of them. All of them. Yes, I am frustrated for you. I can't believe you are so patient to have sat through all that and believe that your time would come. But it didn't. Oh my goodness. I applaud you for your patience and your ability to go to counseling and give it a shot again and experience what it's like to have a real fun game. And I'm sorry you went through that. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, and let this be a lesson to those that hear this story, that if you see this stuff happen early on, to just leave sooner than later.
Well, this one is called, A Player Just Screeched and Quit the Session Because I Wouldn't Let Her Be Assaulted by Imps and Impregnated. Okay, this Sounds crazy. Obviously, a sexual assault warning. Y'all are used to forced sexuality by male DMs onto female PCs? Well, get ready for a female PC trying to force the female DM to sexually assault her character. Yikes. So this person and I have not known each other long. This was in our third session as a group. In the first one, her character was mildly grating because it was an obvious anime girl at self-insert. But she wasn't really disruptive, so I didn't really care. She got annoying when she tried to convince the party not to kill their foes, but they ignored her and killed them anyways, causing her to screech and wail. But pacifist characters aren't anything new, so we moved on. Second session. I'm really sick. Like I might go to the hospital sick. So I call in my friend, tell her the plot and setup, give her my notes and tools, and she DMs. Everything apparently goes fine, but when I come back, the rest of the party is level 2, and our problem player is level 6, sporting 50 gold. What? Between sessions 1 and 2, she made up some BS story about coming across a treasure chest of gold and an artifact that made her stronger each time she lost, and told the other DM and the group that I'd okayed it. I did not. I never spoke to her about this even for a second. Red flag number 1. Actually, I'm sure there's a few by now. So we get into an argument when I tell her to roll her character back to level 2 and lose all her gold. The rest of the party had a collective 2 gold and tried to blame me for not being here. Eventually, when I told her she was kicked out, she apologized. It was fake, but whatever. And I told her that it was her last straw, and that if she caused an issue again, she'd be barred from returning. Session 3 happened, and we came across a fortress they needed to search, and they split up. When she came across imps, she intentionally threw combat and said that her clothes fell off as she was defeated, and that the imps would probably bang her and impregnate her. I'm sorry, what? I immediately told her that was ridiculous and that I'm not going to let her character get pregnant, especially from some random monsters. She tried to fight me on it, saying it was her character and part of her plot for her, and that she could give birth instantly so she didn't have to fight while pregnant, and I just kept telling her absolutely not. That the imps would probably just try to steal her valuables and leave. She wouldn't take no for an answer and kept screaming at me until I told her she wasn't allowed back. Then she said she'd go make her own session. In that case, fine, have fun. I bet you could get all the free gold levels and imp splooge you desire in your fantasy land. I just never want to see you here again. That is insane. Holy moly. 1, it's crazy that you said that they blamed you for their issue of dealing with you not being there while you were super sick. How could you be blamed for that? I mean, maybe you could have canceled the session, but it seems like you wanted the session to continue simply because you didn't want them to not have a day of play simply because you were sick. Sick. Because I feel like that's, I don't know, seems like you were a little more worried about them than yourself. Seems a bit selfless. But anyways, they blamed you. Obviously, this girl is a psychopath, and yes, you should ban her. I mean, if she's into that kind of fantasy, then it is what it is. You know, obviously, she could have whatever fantasy she wants, but obviously, if there's certain fantasies that not everyone's comfortable with, and if, I mean, maybe it's not a fantasy, maybe it's just something she wanted to incorporate into a storyline, but still, it's just, there's certain things that are just so off the charts from normality that you have to understand that some people are going to be uncomfortable with them, and if they are, you can't force them on others. Maybe bring it up, obviously, but don't spring that kind of stuff on people and expect it to just fly. Obviously, I think you did the right thing and kick them, and good luck to them doing their own thing. Our next one is called Not Safe for Work, okay? One of my players wants to leave my table, and sometimes I wonder if I shouldn't have asked why. Oh, this sounds juicy. Let's find out. I've been holding on to this one for a while, so here goes. Names changed on a throwaway account, etc. Have a 5th edition table, things seem to be going well. One of my players, Annie, decides to quit. She gives a notice in our Discord. This is strange. She loves D&D, super enthusiastic, just drew a portrait of all our characters. She says in her I quit notice that she actually doesn't want to quit. I tell her that she doesn't have to share with me, but that I'm a bit stunned as the DM because she seemed to be having such a good time, and I'd be interested in hearing her out, if it helps. This is the other shoe dropping, Pandora unboxing, can of worms, glass shattering moment. Meet John. John brought Annie to our table. She said the reason she wants to leave is because if she stays, John is going to cheat on his longtime girlfriend Erin with her. Uh-oh! I've known John for a while. I've known him for several girlfriends now, the latest being Erin. I know he thinks she's the one and is trying his darndest to make her be it, but is secretly unhappy. Erin's parents, to be blunt, are really frickin' stupid and suck, and give John all sorts of old-fashioned complexes. They ideally think that John, even as a millennial, needs to be financially responsible for Erin in every aspect and respect of her life if he's going to court her, and think he's not good enough if she still needs to work even though they aren't married. But John intends to. I'm assuming her parents are boomers and don't understand how the finances work in our modern world, where one income simply isn't enough. By the way, they also take Erin's entire paycheck and give her $200 a month as an allowance. I tell him that if he's marrying her parents, and they won't ever let it go. He's been complaining for over a year at this point, but every time he asks my opinion and I give it, he clams up and gets mad and doesn't want to talk about the subject with me, so I can't do anything about it. Meet John's character in D&D. Married alchemist with a child on the way. Lawful good plays super straight edge one night after a game in which he drank too much. I had to drive him back. John complains that his character is such a good boy and he hates it. He wants to change it because he wants to get into shenanigans like the petty thief and licentious behavior of the others at the table. I tell him it's fine to make changes. He says it's not. It's not in his character's nature, he says. I am immediately reminded of his frustrations with Erin and her parents. He says he's going to stick it out, but he wouldn't be that upset if I killed off his pregnant wife in game. This is where Annie fills in some blanks. John has been engaging in some aggressively sexual and overtly flirtatious behavior focused on her. Annie was between jobs, so John would bring her food pre-game. They'd hang out at our friend's apartment who hosted. Whenever he did, he would say off-color comments like, "That's another blowjob you owe me." Even when she asked him to stop, he didn't. Even when she told him she didn't want any favors, he did it anyway and still behaved that way. I never saw it because I was maddeningly prepping for sessions up until the minute I had to leave to make it on time, and this would be the stuff they'd be doing beforehand. The trouble is, Annie likes him in spite of all this. The weekend after his confession to me about his character, he goes clubbing with some friend, a female, neither Erin nor Annie, that is with them, gets drunk and passes out on the way home. He sexually assaults her when she's unconscious, and paraphrasing, but thank goodness when she woke up, she was DTF anyway, so it cancels out what I did. Oh man, that is just... What? Annie is massively uncomfortable with this because it shows his lack of understanding of consent. I tell her this is not a good situation and she should not pursue him if she knows this, and asks if she knows the identity of the victim. This should be reported. She says yes, but she won't tell me or report John because she doesn't want to get him in trouble. I asked her if she would deny being the source of the story if I brought it up to the authorities or him, and she says yes. She wants to fix him. She says she knows she sounds like she's a meme at this point, but she genuinely likes John. She swears me to secrecy about knowing this because she's afraid John will get angry at her. I walk away holding a lot of knowledge that I didn't have and didn't know how to do anything constructive or positive about. I confronted John as a friend and not a DM. I told him his behavior is inexcusable about Annie. I have the largest problem with the assault, so I tell him we can't be friends anymore, but I don't mention what I know. He tells me I'm one of his best friends and he doesn't know what he's done wrong. I have to tell him that I don't approve of what he did to Erin. She is a friend from a completely different thing, so it's a bit plausible. Meanwhile, I'm disgusted and frustrated at being unable to really do anything about addressing the assault. Annie is afraid of reprisal from John if he finds out she told me. I'd also be lying if I didn't feel like hearing it secondhand made me have my doubts, but all I know is that he's shown signs it's possible, which is totally a different story. The table feels instantly alien. Annie decides to stay as a player. I feel complicit. I make excuses and step down. Epilogue. I don't particularly think I handled this well. I don't know if I did enough. I don't know if I'm a bad friend who only is around during fair weather, and I'm aware that this isn't about me, but I felt that I couldn't address anything in the given circumstances except for what I felt and what I should do. I think it's fair to say I've been a bit haunted by all of this. All I know is that I was so confused and turned around by everything that happened, I got out. And I have some guilt about being selfish like that. I couldn't help anyone that didn't want to be helped. Everyone kept secrets from one another. I just wanted to roll math rocks with friends. In the end, I wasn't invited to John and Annie's wedding, what happened a year later. Holy what? Edit. I just wanted to add that I appreciate a lot of what you have all said today. I've been troubled by this for a long time. Not as much lately, but it sneaks up on you sometimes, wondering if I'd done the right thing as a DM and as a friend. Much of what was said has helped me objectively see that I probably had taken on more guilt than I was due, but also that there were avenues of consideration that I should have seen that I couldn't at the time. All in all, posting and reading all of your comments, helping me place myself in a healthier mindset. Edit number 2. There's some confusion about the order of operations and who said what. All I can say is that I left out a bunch of information that, as I wrote, this felt irrelevant. The situations pertaining to how the information arrived versus the actual information that was relevant. I don't really want to go and rewrite anything, but I'm happy to clarify. That clarification never came. Sounds like you were surrounded by a bunch of freaking terrible people. John sounds like a maniac. He obviously is dating someone. He says that's the one, but then he goes to a club with another lady who they end up getting plastered drunk together. He assaults her. She doesn't seem to mind. So, that alone is enough. And then Annie hears about the assault. I'm wondering how she hears about how does she hear about that? She didn't go to the club. So did the girl that was being assaulted wake up, say she was assaulted but did like it? Or did John tell her that he assaulted somebody and then that she liked it? I'm confused by that bit of information. But that's a red flag, obviously. I mean, that he cheated on Aaron, and Annie was still okay with that. She was like, not only was it okay that you cheated, but it was okay that you potentially assaulted somebody, and then they got married, acting like it wasn't going to happen. I understand if John's miserable in that situation, because obviously if you have a girlfriend whose parents are like that, you're going to be miserable. But his actions to go clubbing and cheating and assaulting are clearly not okay. And then Annie seems to be a horrible person who's willing to just enable all of this and go along with it because she wants to change him. It's obviously an extremely selfish thing. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they're good for each other, and that marriage probably won't last after all.
Gunslinger shoots himself in the foot and cleric falls from grace. Interesting. Trigger warning and am I the a-hole? Hello everyone! This isn't going to be my first RPG horror story, but it's by far the worst because it ended with some incredibly harmful claims about me and my best friend, basically. And a burner, because I know these people probably use Reddit and I'd rather not get involved something again. Naturally, names and details are going to be changed. Sorry in advance for formatting and length. I feel like a lot needs to be said, and I'm on mobile. How fun. Let's continue. This is also partially an am I the a-hole because although I'm pretty sure we've done nothing wrong, I'm still really hesitant to feel completely absolved of guilt. Well, let's find out. I should also mention that some of the things that are mentioned in this story are really heavy, so I'll just mention there's a trigger warning for implied CP as well. Oh, great. You're probably not in the wrong if it involves that and you freaking hate the person that did it. Okay, anyway, so let's continue. Some folks who are important. Me, myself, a bard. My best friend and the DM's IRL friend who played the bard in our campaign DM. Our DM, I'm already going to interrupt here, but for all intensive purposes, the three of us here are all minors. We are children. I'm younger than both the DM and my friend by just about less than 2 years because of how birthdays fall. Children? I'm confused. What? Gunslinger, our group's gunslinger, who ended up being one of the main problems. He is an adult in every sense of the word. Cleric, the cleric, he was the oldest of the group and again very much an adult. Also ended up being the other main problem. Blood Hunter, someone who ended up having our backs when we honestly were least expecting it. He's a cool guy, although we don't talk anymore. I'm so confused. You don't write like a child, but Amina, okay, I guess. Just, I'm so confused. So you're children playing with adults. It's just weird, I guess, to begin with. I mean, I know people have claimed, oh, it's not weird if you play with kids. I get it. If you're in like a specific setting, it could work, I guess. But okay, I'm just I'm kind of confused at the setup, but let's continue anyways. Some less important people, Goliath, a member of the campaign who didn't stay long, but is slightly important to the story. This all started back last year in roughly July/August, where all of my D&D groups were on hiatus. One DM was at our state fair for 4 hours and couldn't run, and another DM was on break after running Horde of the Dragon Queen. Being bored in this time, I joined up with a few games online, having never played before online really. A lot of the games honestly weren't great, but one that I joined was DM's game, and it seemed really good and he seemed well prepared. So needless to say, I was excited. You write exceptionally well for a child, honestly. It was clear that Cleric, Gunslinger, Bloodhunter, and DM all knew each other from another hobby and other Discord servers, but it seemed like Goliath and myself were the new players. After getting our characters and everything all set up into the Roll20, we hopped into VC for the first session, and it went pretty well. I was a bit cautious about role-playing, seeing as I still wasn't super comfortable with talking to strangers online, but after the session we all hung out for a bit and chatted. We all got along pretty well. As the campaign wore on and I was still enjoying myself, Goliath kept missing sessions, leading to him being kicked from the game and replaced with Bard. I was pretty excited to have a new player, and to not have to play Goliath's character anymore as well, as it was a bit overwhelming sometimes. And in general, Bard seemed like a really chill dude. Immediately, I think Gunslinger and Bard were kind of the closest friends. They ended up playing in a one-off, non-canon one-shot at the request of Gunslinger, but all in all, everyone in general just seemed to be friends. Over time, my Rogue and Bard's character kind of developed a combat strategy, leading to them being good buddies, as well as me talking with Bard more out of session in DMs, and occasionally working on homework in VC together. We were pretty similar and were the two really big crap posters of the group, and would make memes during session. To be fair, everyone else did as well. Gunslinger especially would send a lot of memes in and out of session. There weren't really any issues, honestly. Most of the group's disagreements were Mock, Gunslinger, and Bloodhunter being mean to people, or arguing over Bloodhunter's actions. He had some personal issues that sometimes he brought to the game, and he acted really inappropriately even if it was in character. It was just annoying, and no, it wasn't anything gross, ever. As a group, we really got along. I texted with Bard a lot during and after school. Bard and I were close friends because he had similar problems as well. We helped each other out. For reference, we were in VC together on Christmas Eve. On New Year's, two things happened. An outside drama with Gunslinger where a bunch of accounts were banned and some of us from the server got involved in it, along with a friend. And something in Bard's personal life that really hurt him came up. That's all I'll share because otherwise it would be 1, unfair for me to share people's personal problems, and 2, obvious who I'm talking about. In our Discord server, DM had added a channel at our request called Quotes. The Quotes channel was mainly used like humiliation, almost. If someone said something in or out of session that we found funny or lacked context, or in general was just really dumb, we would quote them in the channel. That's kind of funny. This led to not only a lot of memorable campaign moments being saved, but a lot of us being general idiots out of campaigns saved as well. In this server, there was a private voice channel that was only myself, Bard, DM, and DM's girlfriend could access. It might sound unfair that only we had access to it, but honestly, it was more so out of ease of access, since we wanted to talk in private sometimes and listen to the bot, as well as being made when I was having a personal problem that DM and Bard were helping with, and we didn't want anyone else to join. This was really convenient because Bard and I would be able to VC without having to deal with janky DM voice calling, and without being afraid of having random people join. When quarantine started, we both had a lot of time off and we used it a lot, just to hang out, crap post, whatever. DM used it too. We played Minecraft together. I'm being completely honest here, it was super innocent. We just liked, and still like, talking. Okay, wondering where the story happens. Now, this was an issue because it led to us staying up incredibly late more than once and sending a whole bunch of things in quotes. This wasn't something that happened all the time, but there were 2 occasions where Bard and I would quote each other back and forth. One time was notably when I got Bard to play Wizard 101, yes, like the kids game, with me for a bit, and he and I were joking around, and the other when playing Minecraft. We also sent some quotes from Easter when we were making joke circus characters, and we were talking with the DM about a card game. We never really spammed the chat, but we did send 9 or 10 quotes, tops, 1 or 2 times. A lot of quotes were really dumb things, some highlights being, I'm no longer baby, I'm dead. I just got hit with a giant axe, my name. I should be everywhere, room except where I am standing. I should be so frickin' dead. I should, now I'm getting attacked by ninja pigs, anime pigs. I'm trying to put on House of the Rising Sun, do you mind? Bod being killed by a zombie while fishing. Denny's leads you directly to IRA, DM. Me, almost crying. We have 689.6 days worth of bread. Oh boy, this is a very long story, and I'm wondering what any of this has to do with anything. I hope we'll find out. These are directly taken from the channel, and while there were more, I just grabbed a sample group. I can promise they were all to the same effect. This is why when Cleric pinged both me and Bod the following morning saying, "Stop frickin' flirting," in quotes, we were both completely bewildered. Ah, okay. We had absolutely no idea what he was talking about and assumed it was a joke at first. That was until both Cleric and Gunslingers seemed to go off in the quotes channel yelling, and me and Bod. It was moved to general when DM put slow mode on to stop them from spamming, where I asked for them to explain what was wrong. He said that it was cringy and bothered him, it was in a flirtatious manner. I really didn't understand what that meant, so I tried to shut it down right there by saying, no, like if you're genuinely not okay with the quotes, I don't want to go on, but I'd at least like an explanation of what to stop doing so I can still send some quotes. To which I was told to relax and that it was just teasing. He basically just went on saying it was cringy, and as I'm reading through the server messages now, it was left at that. I'll admit I got really defensive and upset because I was afraid I'd made him mad, but both Cleric and Gunslinger assured me that it was just teasing and meant to be playful. It was left at that. I don't know how using a server in the method it was designed for, such as quoting silly things, is flirting. Especially for many of those quotes I read. There was nothing flirting in that. You're just... Okay, yeah, that was a weird call-out, but okay, let's see what else happens. Perhaps it's our fault for not learning our lesson, but the next time we used quotes, it was over a week later, and 3 things were quoted in this. The first was me quoting DM about him taking a lot of naps, the second was Bod quoting me about how the Halo map construct, and the third was me quoting Bod, who was complaining about construct. That was it. The next morning we woke up to Gunslinger and Cleric really upset, spamming the channel. DM locked it again, and this time privated it so that only Bod, myself, and him could see it. We, once again, took it to general chat, where Cleric greeted us with, "Do you realize it doesn't frickin' matter because of the same dang reasons I brought up last time, and that you are still frickin' doing the same frickin' thing? And I stated that it made me uncomfortable. Instead of being of average intelligence and going, 'That's fair,' or some crap, you go, 'I'll frickin' do it again, stupid morons!'" I felt sick to my stomach because I really cared about these people and I really didn't want to hurt anyone, but I decided to stick to myself, and I pointed out how Cleric not once said he felt uncomfortable in our previous conversation. I'd even scrolled up to reread it, and the entire situation, again, was being brushed off. Cleric replied with, "But you stopped me from communicating, which is so cool!" Meanwhile, DM was telling him that this could have happened before session, and Gunslinger was blaming Blood Hunter as a joke. He got yelled at in the session prior to this happening for talking over DM and everyone else. This seems so petty. Regardless, I brought up how he said nobody was mad, how he brushed it off as a joke, and how nobody cared. His reply was that he didn't want to stress me out, and that he thought we agreed to knock it off. But hey, screw whatever I said before, right? Take the conjecture and twist it into whatever fantasy befits your beliefs. DM told us to talk it out in VC, and I think we did. Though session after this was really awkward, and Gunslinger tried to kill both his and Cleric's character, as Cleric had given him control of the character after leaving mid-session. That was our last session, basically. I don't understand how, again, how is it assumed that you're flirting? Especially to the point of them throwing a little temper tantrum like that. I guess that's the crazy part. Like, I don't understand how quoting people that are silly in a Discord section designed for quoting things that happen that are silly 3 times is spam and flirtatious and inappropriate flirtatious. I don't know where any of those conclusions had come from. Anyways, there's a lot more story. Let's continue. From there, I don't actually remember all that well, but I do believe that Bod and I were in the private channel when Gunslinger started messaging me. I think they were trying to get Bod to join voice with them, but I ended up joining instead. It was at this point I understood what they meant by flirting. Look, previously in the story there was some context I cut so as to better narrate how this whole situation went down for me, because what might have been glaringly obvious to a lot of people wasn't obvious to me because it was a thought that had never occurred. Me and my D&D character are both lesbians. Okay. While I hadn't intended to bring this personal fact into this game, I made a passing joke which sparked a romance between my character and another female NPC. It should have been, in my opinion at least, glaringly obvious that I have no and have had no interest in boys at all. This relationship also wasn't secretive at all either. It had been going on in character since like November, December-ish, and we had portions of the game where I actually went on dates with this NPC. What started happening, though, was when me and Bod started talking pretty much all day and every day in VC, and others started assuming that we were dating, or interested in each other at least. There were definitely a few moments where Gunslinger and Cleric had both pressed Bod on this fact, and even DM had brought it up. Now, aside from the fact that Bod is in fact a boy and I'm not attracted to that gender, Bod had some trust issues due to a past relationship that was very, very recent. In short, there's no way this relationship ever would or could happen, especially at that time. Bod and I had joked about a jar that we would put $1 into every time someone assumed we were dating, because it was so implausible to us. We found it really funny, although to be fair, I'll analyze how it might have looked to the others. Despite my sexuality and Bod's trust issues, we did hang out a lot, and would DM each other a lot and crap post together during session. Additionally, we had duo characters for a game that Cleric was running, where we had a TPK, so we had a good chance to introduce them both, that were twins. Since I'm an artist, I did make a joking piece that showed my character saying, "What are you doing, step bro?" followed by a drawing of Bod's character juggling like a pot and a pan, looking nervous/confused. I think this might have sent the wrong idea, although it was clearly a joke to me. From there, I genuinely can't tell why they might have thought we were dating, other than being a boy and a girl who were close friends with similar personalities/backgrounds. I'm not sure, to be fully honest. I'll leave it up to you. Did we go too far with that joke? Or maybe with the quoting and sending memes to each other during session in general, it was too far? I don't think joking or using or quoting too much or hanging out in VC is just intrinsically flirtatious or means to assume intimate or emotional/relationship on a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever type level. I don't understand how hanging out. I would assume either there's jealousy involved from someone, or there's more to the story. But you seem to have been communicating pretty clearly so far. So I'm going to assume that there's probably jealousy involved from the different party that would just berate you for that. But yes, I don't think posting memes in Discord or quoting or talking in VC is just... You can't just assume and default to, because they get along and spend time with each other that they're obviously in a relationship. I mean, that's obviously the wrong conclusion to draw. So, well, that's my 2 cents anyways. Let's continue. Right, that interlude aside, back to the issue at hand. I'd joined VC after some prompting from Gunslinger and DMs, which roughly followed him asking me if I liked Bod, and me denying as much. Him saying that Bod claimed he turned me down. And then Gunslinger telling me, "Well, that's a lie, I've heard you in VC." Which I still don't know what that meant, and then me, 1, offering to talk in VC, 2, asking him and Cleric to stop talking about me and Bod dating, as it obviously made them uncomfortable, and me as well. That voice chat was one of the worst things I'd ever endured in my life. Honestly, I'm really sorry, but I don't even remember half of it. When I joined, Gunslinger, Bloodhunter, and Cleric were already there, and I immediately had to go into justifying that. No, I didn't like Bod. No, I hadn't ever turned him down. No, I didn't know if Bod liked me or not, but we were just friends and it shouldn't matter anyways. That's a good point. That's awfully weird for them to be so involved in trying to figure that out. I mean, honestly, I'm just wondering if it just gets to the point where Some people just don't have lives, and their whole existence is on a Discord server, and the littlest things just become their entire existence purpose for some reason. I brought up the point of my sexuality, which they brushed off, telling me they thought better of me than to use that defense. They kept pushing until Bard joined and was similarly denying things. Then the approach changed, going towards accusing both of us of being manipulators, mainly focusing on Bard, though they admitted they didn't know which of us was the bad guy in this situation. It's so trivial. They were calling Bard a creep and saying because of our age difference, again, we are both children, that is to say minors, below the age of 18, he was a pedo and a pervert. Now, I'm not giving specific ages here, but again, both of us were minors and the age difference was slightly less than 2 years. They were claiming it to be 3 because apparently his birthday was the following month, which it wasn't. But it was the difference in age between a high school freshman and an early birthday and a high school junior with a late birthday. Again, it's not like you were a freshman level and they were, college level. That obviously is a huge issue. But just being friends even, I guess, it's weird. But Discord, I guess you meet lots of people. I don't know. But that doesn't seem like a discrepancy to the point of friendship being an issue. Because you're clearly denying any sort of intimacy, romance, any of that stuff, so for them to keep pressing you is just odd. Eventually, after attacking Bard for apparently being a pedo for dating me, and yelling at both of us for flirting and being friends, they turned to me claiming that I could be the manipulator here, and they didn't trust me either. They said they wanted to believe I was a nice girl, but I could be behind it all, and they didn't know. When I became overwhelmed and my voice broke, Gunslinger told me not to cry because it felt like a defense tactic. Gunslinger also told us that but defending ourselves and arguing back that it was suspicious and made us look worse. I don't know. That sounds a bit manipulative, and just what a bunch of weird people. And there's 3 of them coming at you. I don't know, either something's being left out, or they're just really weird. The 3 of them to just berate you like that. I don't know. Obviously, okay, here's the thing. I understand. If you're being defensive about grooming or the pedo stuff, I totally get that. Like, if that was a legit situation here, I feel like, yes, they should berate you and just completely be all over your case. Because grooming and pedophilia, that is completely unacceptable, and they are entirely in the right for berating you. But from what you've written so far, that doesn't seem to be the case, which is why I'm confused. And because I'm confused, either I missed something or something's being left out. I'm not sure. Anyways, we'll continue. He expected 2 literal children. You keep saying children. It sounds like you're not a child. Now, obviously, you're a minor. You're underage. But you're not a child. So it's just, maybe that's just how you reference your age. But that just seems like you don't write like a child. You don't seem to understand situations like a child. You have clear logic. You're able to analyze. You're able to reflect and reason. Like, these are not characteristics of a child. Now, obviously, you're a minor, underage. Cool. There's certain parameters that must be addressed here, especially with relationship stuff. But, I don't know, the children word is just kind of throwing me off a bit because you seem older than, like, a 12-year-old, But again, I don't think it's that... I don't think that's a bit nuanced. I don't know if it matters that much, honestly, because you're still in the minor category, which has its own set of rules. Anyways, I'll continue from there. He expected 2 literal children to sit there and take 2 grown, self-proclaimed mature adults attacking them for having an innocuous friendship. Or further, they created a situation where they claimed there was an abuser, and then proceeded to admit they didn't know who the abuser was and instead attack both parties. Not only this, but they got angry with me for trying to defend Bard, and Gunslinger called me the most disgusting thing I think anyone could have in that situation. Complacent. He had the audacity to call me, someone who they said was a victim, complacent. Well, obviously, if they're... Okay, so I'm thinking of 2 things. Either because they're adults, they're uncomfortable with minors having a relationship in their server, which I guess is fair, because if you're an adult, you don't want to be around kids doing things that could lead to just all sorts of issues for the server, so that's fine. The next thing, but again, that's just nature of Discord, just don't have relationships being allowed publicly if that's the case. Or maybe they just feel that, here's what I don't understand. If there is a pedo situation going on, then the oldest person is clearly the one that is the issue, and the youngest person, regardless of their complacency or whatever they're doing, they are the victim. It's just that simple. So the fact that they can't figure it out tells me, well, how is it a pedo situation? Because if it's a pedo situation, obviously the oldest person is the one that is the main problem, right? I mean, that's kind of the nature of being in that category. But the fact that they're trying to figure it out is also questionable. So, we'll continue. The rest of the call was Bloodhunter trying to de-escalate what was happening by providing potential reasons for why things were the way they were, and he did a really good job, but Gunslinger and Cleric were too heated to listen. This came out of nowhere for both me and Bod, and we're still incredibly grateful for him doing this. Eventually, Gunslinger and Cleric left, and Bod took a quick break. Both Bloodhunter and Bod helped to comfort me after I broke down when they left. Cleric and Gunslinger left the server, and Bod and I took a break from Discord, though this was short-lived as we decided to hop into another call to discuss what had happened just a few days later. I could say that it ends here, but it doesn't really. Eventually, having been blocked on Discord, Gunslinger took to Snapchat to harass Bod, which happened to be while we were in a call as well. He quietly went to deal with that, until I got the message on Discord from Gunslinger saying, "Do us a favor, tell your boyfriend Bard to stop trying to justify the fact he told me that you are into him." Having been away from the situation for a few days, all of my anxiety had turned to just cold anger, so I went off on Gunslinger. I'm wondering if Bod is communicating things behind the scenes that are leading to more of their issue. Because if Bod is communicating as like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking now after reading that. Maybe Bod had communicated with them as a boy, that maybe you as a girl are into them, or that there's something going on trying to boast his confidence or self-esteem or whatever. And then they hear you saying no, and then when Bod says no as well in public, amongst everyone as a group, they're seeing the lie. And now that there's a lie going on and there's misinformation, maybe that's causing their confusion, which causes them to be more angry. And then that's being projected onto you, and you're just guilty by association. That could be what's happening here. And if that's the case, then it's Bod is an issue. But again, I don't know. So far, I don't see... Okay, so as to your initial question, are you the a-hole? I don't see it yet. I don't see you being the a-hole yet. So far, everyone else seems to be the problem here. And it could be Bod, or it could be them. I don't know. We'll continue. He tried claiming he had proof and screenshots of something I'd texted Bod, despite the fact the conversation where he allegedly had screenshots from was completely over voice, and the only text I'd sent Bod that day was saying hello and basically us agreeing to get into voice. I called him on this, and then he proceeded to strawman, which I called him out on. He tried to deny calling me complacent by saying I was a coward. He also accused me of lying about misunderstanding how Cleric had felt regarding the quote chat. Yes, this all stemmed from that chat. He told me I needed to do some growing up and stop using some personal things as a defense tactic. I told him as an adult he needed to get off his high horse and stop pretending he knew more than I did and that he'd crossed the line. He told me I'd crossed the line and asked me to please do some growing up, to which I responded that what I say to other people isn't your business, before he blocked me. I think eventually he blocked Bod on Snapchat after he similarly refused to back down. Honestly, all in all, despite the fact I was mentally put in a really bad place because of all this, it did lead to me and Bod becoming better friends, and we're basically inseparable, and have been through so much now. We still make jokes about it. Nowadays, we're playing in a campaign set 2 years after the old one fell apart, with Bod as the DM and DM as an observer. We resolve the plot of the old game, and both of our characters are recurring high-level NPCs who help the party. Bod as the new god of knowledge after the old one died during the final fight, and my character as a right-hand man, both of whom act as employers for the party. Our new group is great, and Bod is a great DM. Even if it was crappy, I don't think I'd have it any other way. What an interesting story! Again, unless you're leaving a bunch out and not reflecting honestly, I don't see you being the a-hole. And again, I think I've already stated how I felt about everything, so there's all sorts of different scenarios that could go on, but based on the context you gave me, and not having any more insight, it seems like the issue or the people, the adults in the situation. But again, there could be reasons for why they acted the way they did, but it wasn't communicated clearly, to me at least, in the story. So if you as a listener have any other input, please put it in the comments below, or tell me how you agree or disagree with my take, because I'm curious. This was a rather long story, so I'm interested in knowing the perspectives of everyone else. Anyways, that does conclude our tale for today, and if you'd like to hear another, come back and I shall tell you one.